Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Yannick. I do want to continue talking about Alexander Isak. It's the huge story in world football at the moment. I am in a echoey dining room, so I apologise for that if the audio is a little bit reverby, but I do want to speak about this. It was published on the Athletic deal sheet today. A little update in the drama of Alexander Isak and how he is straight up refusing to play for Newcastle United again or forever. He's not going to play for the club again. He's essentially turning his back on the club, the fans, the owners. He's got 3 years left on his contract that he's contractually obliged to play for the club. So they, in theory, could just refuse to sell him and just be fining him for not playing football. I mean, surely you'd think the employer, the club, would be in a place of strength here in terms of putting their foot down. And although they might have PSR, profit and sustainability rule issues in Newcastle, and you might think, wow, they're not in a position to sort of mess about here, do you know what I mean? Despite all that, they do have incredibly rich owners. Of course, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. So you think they might just... There were reports suggesting they were going to put their foot down. They weren't going to be taken for a ride by this player in terms of one of the biggest demonstrations of player power you will see. I'm just going to try and move my mic a little bit higher, put it there, see if that stays on a bit better. So yeah, I'm going to get into this. It is published on the Athletic deal sheet today, which is David Ornstein probably writing about this. It's the big story in world football, man. Player refuses to play for club to try and force a move to the Premier League champions in Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool made a bid for Isak. It was £110 million, which fell short, way short of Newcastle's valuation, and actually fell short of what Liverpool were prepared to pay in terms of informal talks prior. There was an indication they'd pay £120 million, which would of course represent a Premier League transfer record. But they ended up offering 110. By all accounts, Newcastle were kind of insulted and threw it back at them. Were like, no, we don't want to hear from you again. And the way they left it is they're not going to bid for him again. They're not going to bid for him again unless Newcastle get on the phone. They've obviously got in the ear of Isak and said, right, push for a move. Make them call us. Make them call us and we will put a significant bid in for you and you can come join the party. You got Liverpool's captain, Virgil van Dijk, coming out at the end of the Community Shield when they lost on penalties to Crystal Palace, saying we need a striker. We've lost Darwin Núñez. Of course, he's gone to Saudi Arabia. We need a centre forward. I mean, I'd argue they don't. They've got a €95 million centre forward in Hugo Ekitike, who scored a great goal in that Community Shield. Has he scored? He certainly scored. Yeah, he did. And I think he may have scored in pre-season. I'm not entirely sure. He's looked alright since coming in. Cody Gakpo can play down the middle. Mohamed Salah can play down the middle. And I think they could be okay. Especially with how things are getting on now and in the position Newcastle are in. By the way, guys, welcome back to Football Yannick. There's daily content here on the channel. We are on the road to 20,000 subs. So if you are a returning visitor or indeed a new visitor and you are yet to subscribe, I'd urge you to do so and be thankful for that. If you subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you for liking the video. And as always, welcome comments in the comment section. So I'm going to read a little bit off the deal sheet here. David Ornstein's one to watch. When supporters are waiting Newcastle United's lineup to face Aston Villa on Saturday, a burning question will be what role, if any, Isak might occupy in Eddie Howe's team. Well, just off the bat, he's not going to be involved in that game. If they put their foot down, refuse to sell him, it will be a while till he's reintegrated, if indeed he is, because it sounds like he's proper throwing his toys out the pram here, mate. Isak has not featured in pre-season, of course, at all, amid Newcastle's ongoing pursuit. And while Newcastle have stressed they have no intention of allowing a sale, potential replacements continue to be explored. Yeah, they've always held this position in Newcastle that they're not selling him. But there's been this background thing of they will have to sell him. Do you know what I mean? That maybe even they have accepted at times. The anticipation is that Isak will miss the trip to Villa Park, with his future shrouded in uncertainty. Based on conversations with sources privy to the matter, The Athletic understands Isak is adamant he will never represent Newcastle again. Well, they are your employers, mate, and you're contracted by them. Even if Newcastle refuse to sell the 24-year-old Sweden international striker, and he remains on Tyneside when the transfer window closes, Isak regards his career at St James's Park as finished and has no desire to reintegrate into the squad. This is mental. Like, what a way to completely destroy your legacy with a great club in Newcastle. You know, amazing, loyal fan base. You know, you've won a trophy with them. You scored the goal in the final against the team you're trying to join. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you're in Champions League. I keep saying this, but I'll reiterate again. My position would be, please tell them you want to go and say next season max. You know, or if you can do something in January, though I don't think that suits anyone. But because you've platformed me, because you've helped me get to this level, you know, I'm willing to, and I'm only 25 and I've got 3 years left on my contract. I mean, it's easy to say from the outside looking in, but it just seems so obvious, like, this is awful behaviour. If he was like, you know, 29 years old, this was his last chance to sign a 5-year deal at a big club. And if he was like Gyökeres, I kind of understand a bit more why Gyökeres was panicking. What's he, 27, 28? He wants to sign a big, lucrative 5-year deal for Arsenal, and he felt like it had to happen now. And he wasn't playing in the top 5 league. Newcastle is. Isak is for Newcastle. So it's just not a great look, basically. You know, like, it's the same thing with Garnacho in Chelsea. You know, really trying to get to a club. The selling club fans are like really, you know, down on it. I mean, I don't think the players come out great on this. So look, Isak, the player himself, his perspective is that after being informed last summer that a new contract would not yet be offered to him, like that he has to wait for a new contract with more money, because of Newcastle's need to comply with financial fair play rules, like I said earlier. Isak already having a lucrative deal until 2028. Yeah, I imagine that Newcastle as a 60 million, because he still costs 60 million quid, they took a chance on him, they paid a lot of money. I reckon he's still on significant wages. Yeah, they consider a lucrative deal for another 3 years to run. He's made it clear he would not be this. It would be his last campaign with the club. So that's like his briefing. He's doing the Gyökeres like gentleman's agreement. They knew it was going to be the last year. Do we believe that? Well, it's up to you, isn't it? Some at Newcastle deny this was ever expressed and believe the forward planned to discuss the situation, including the possibility of fresh terms, signing a new deal. So you pick a side who you believe, basically, right? Last campaign, Isak helped his side win the Carabao Cup, qualify for the Champions League. 2 weeks before the season ended, he told Howe of his wish to leave and reiterated this on a call to the manager before flying to Sweden after the club's final day defeat to Everton. So this is interesting because a lot of fans in that just read the mainstream media thought he just suddenly out of nowhere said it. But this is a sort of validation from respectable authority journalists saying, no, he told Howe before the season concluded that he wanted out. Doesn't mean you can get out, though. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool are yet to... And I think quickly as well, we need to take into consideration the context of the transfer landscape. Newcastle United tried to sign strikers. 3 of them. They were putting lots of work in, and they all went elsewhere. They really wanted to sign Liam Delap, he went to Chelsea. They put everything into signing Joao Pedro, also went to Chelsea. And of course, they went all in on Hugo Ekitike. And it seemed like Liverpool were giving them an ultimatum that people guessed, like, sell us Isak or we'll buy Ekitike. They ended up buying Ekitike, and then they're still trying to take Isak off them. Like, horrible bullying from Liverpool to Newcastle United. So I think maybe there's a consideration from Newcastle saying, yeah, we would have considered it for a record fee if we got these other guys in. But it's been a catastrophe. It's been a disaster. Therefore, we're not in a position to do it, mate. You're just going to have to, like, understand that? You know, do you really not give a so-and-so about us that much? This club that platformed you, that you won trophies with, that the fans sung your name. Do you really not care that much that you can't see how difficult this is and you can just wait 12 months? That would be my opinion. Liverpool are yet to make an offer since their £110 million bid at the beginning of August was turned down. Newcastle's stance may soften if a proposal close to £150 million. I mean, let's be real. In my opinion, if they wave £130 million in front of Newcastle United, they will absolutely take it. And again, in my opinion, they would just get on the phone to Chelsea and be like, we'll give you 70 million for Jackson to get it done. I see that happening personally. The Premier League champions' interest remains firm. Isak is focused on a move to Anfield. So look, man, it's gonna go to the wire, this. I think it can do, genuinely purely because of the Nicholas Jackson situation at Chelsea, because Chelsea are happy to keep him, but they're also happy to sell him for good money. If, for example, theoretically, on the final few days of the transfer window, because I don't think a new striker would be ready for the opening game anyway. If they're like, right, well, Jackson does fit Newcastle, by the way. There was like other athletic profiles of Nicholas Jackson. He had the most ball carry involvements and counter-attacking goals than any other striker in the league. Newcastle love a counter-attack. He's always available. He does drift into wide areas. He's a couple of years younger than Isak. I actually think he'll be a very good signing for Newcastle United. This is me speaking as a Chelsea fan, of course, who's seen him a lot. And I think he'd be very, very good. I genuinely think he'd be excellent for them. And he'd be appropriate. So, for example, if they all sit down and people at Newcastle and they go, right, Chelsea will accept 70. I know Chelsea have been saying 80 to 100 million. I think that's nonsense personally. I think £70 million, they more than double their money on him. He's not necessarily first choice. They will do that. And they've got a good dialogue with Jackson, Chelsea. They're not like, pushing him out. He's not throwing his toys out of the pram. They're all sitting together and they're like, look, you can stay, you'll be integrated, but we understand you want to start. Do you want to start somewhere? Yeah, I do. Should we try and find you a move if possible? Yeah. Like, it's all quite amicable, do you know what I mean? So if it gets to near the end of the window and Newcastle suddenly think, right, we can get £125 million, a transfer record for Isak, £125 million, and but we can ask for an upfront payment of £70 million, which is a lot, by the way, because upfront payments are usually 30, 40 for these big transfers. So let's just say to Liverpool, yeah, last chance, get it done, 70 million up front, and we'll just put that straight on Jackson. And then we'll also enjoy the upcoming payments from the Isak transfer. Maybe everyone shakes hands, maybe everyone sees it happening. But I must say, like, obviously it's a tale as old as time, these players forcing transfers and putting in requests. You've got Ademola Lookman doing it at the moment at Atalanta. I'm scarred as a Chelsea fan with Thibaut Courtois refusing to turn up for training. It's the same again. It's just such a shame. I mean, Garnacho, Amorim, just to use him as an example of something that's happening recently, Amorim did tell him to go find another club after the Europa League final loss. So there is that. He's a kid, he's not been advised well. His behaviour's still been poor, by the way, but there's kind of like, you've got to go, and he's a kid and he's behaving like a kid. But Isak's 25 years old, he's like an experienced striker, they spent a lot of money on him, they made him the guy, he got better at Newcastle, his numbers went up, and it feels like he's turning his back on the club, the crest, the fan base. It's just a real stinky look. If he gets his move to Liverpool, imagine when he returns to St James's Park. He's going to get the treatment, and dare I say rightly so. Look, it's a short career, you can do what you want. I'm not a footballer, do you know what I mean? My perception would be there's a better way of doing it. I said it earlier in the video, but each to their own, as it were. Guys, let me know what you think about this. This is a huge story. It's developing all the time, so I'm going to be covering stuff like this on the channel in different places on my new fancy, cool vlogging camera. So hop aboard, man. We're closing in on 20,000 subscribers. I need to think not to look at the screen, to look at the lens. It's right underneath. Yeah, thank you for liking and subscribing, and hope to see you back here soon. Peace.